Stop. Stop it. You're on live. You're on live.
Oh, really? Oh, okay. Thank you. Thank you
Just don't pay attention to that live.
for telling me. Hello, everyone.
Anybody on
Oh,
yet?
but you can still say hello if they come in.
Wait for the ticker to show.
You get on my nerve. Here, I'm gonna get on so you
They're
can
supposed to
think,
be on
so you can think somebody
at
on.
7. I can tell. I see the numbers. I see the numbers. Where are my people?
I don't see us.
I see it. Say hello when you come on. You guys say
Oh, I see it
hello.
now. It came on.
Say hello.
I had to refresh.
So we know somebody's out there. Turn that down, woman. Let's go.
Let's go. It's time for John and Gale.
Say hello. This is a oh, hey, that's Ashante Lucas.
Hi, Asante.
Hey,
I
man.
don't think I've ever called you Asante. We've always just said Asante.
Hey, man. How are you? Hope all is well.
He probably will too.
You all say hello
Say
when you
hello.
come on.
Hello.
Make sure my phone is silent. We're gonna have a guest. We're gonna have a guest today, so we got to get going.
Willie Triggs.
We got to get going. Willie Triggs. He didn't say hello. Say hello in the comments. Let's get caught up on current events so we can talk about our topic
let's
today,
talk
which
about
is
something.
communication.
Communication. Go ahead. I started last week.
Maybe Asante like us and take us global.
Right.
You know, he's a producer.
He's Mr. Worldwide. No, Martell.
He's a producer.
Martell is the producer.
No, he's a producer too.
Okay.
And a filmer.
Okay, so I think you're a producer now.
He is.
Tell him thank you.
I think yes. Anyway, so this week we have the president.
The former, no, he is the former president.
The former president.
Don't play with me on this camera.
The former president going to court.
Don't play
for a second time.
Yeah.
Being indicted for something else. He is innocent until proven guilty. I just like to establish that. He had a few folders in his house.
You know, that's what I thought it was. I actually thought I literally thought the man had maybe a couple of manila folders, envelopes, and a couple of folders on his desk or in the file cabinet. I was shocked when I saw those rooms full of banker boxes full of documents. And they're saying that some of those might have been gone through and some of the documents may have been removed. But I was shocked. I didn't expect to see all those documents, boxes full of documents.
He declassified them.
It was mine.
Well, even by thinking, he said that he could
declassify
by his mind. By his mind. Hold up, Renee.
I guess it's here.
Hello.
I'm gonna bring her in a moment. We're Renee. We're lost. Now we're lost.
Are we really?
Renee is our guest today.
No, we're not.
Hold up.
Yes, we are.
Renee is our guest today, and
Did you
hear that?
It's a bit loud.
It's a bit loud. Okay, hold on a second. Hey, Leslie.
How come nobody's showing up on
I'm not in.
I see six people in.
Let's try something else.
You got 6 people?
Renee.
That's fine.
Okay.
You did not sign up for that abuse. You didn't.
Loud. Can we just bring it down a little bit? Let's bring it down.
Turn it down a little bit. All right,
bring it down.
Hold on. All right, people.
How's that?
You know what?
You're gonna have to turn yours. You gotta turn yours down.
We're experiencing a bad connection. Don't be surprised if this call might drop halfway through.
Hey, Lucretia. We appreciate
Hi. Hey,
everybody coming
Lucretia.
on. Hey, Pastor Bishop, and then
Bishop Willie.
Leslie. Hey,
Gwen. Hey.
hey. Oh, Brother Ken. This is Brother Ken. That was Brother Ken. Then Lucretia. Okay. Then Sister Gwen. Okay. Thank you guys for coming on, being with us today.
Yes.
Today we're going to talk about communication.
Communication.
We're gonna kind of carry on the conversation. Seems like we're kind of just God has us here in this place of communication. We had a great conversation with Dr. Kennard this
Yeah.
past Sunday. So
Shades.
we asked Renee to join us, and
Yeah.
we're just going to talk about this. And we had to, I don't know how we're going to do this. I know we've been married a long time, but we just got to get in the screen together.
Okay.
I can see you guys
Right.
together.
Yes, yes.
You're fine. Yeah, you're
Okay.
fine.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Cool.
Just
All
like
right.
that.
Now,
Because if we weren't, Renee would tell us.
yeah, she would tell us. She looks
Shades?
like she's
No
outside.
shades?
Yeah, she looks like
I
Shades.
she's
am.
outside. The
Shades.
In
sky is so
beautiful
blue.
downtown Detroit.
Yeah,
Awesome.
the sky is so blue. Okay, let's
Yeah,
get
it's a
into
very
this
nice
because
day.
we ain't gonna hold up people. People say, "Well, I'm not gonna come on John and Gill and
Right.
grab
If I
on just
can.
be talking all day."
Go
Ready?
ahead.
Fair enough.
All right, here
All
we
right,
go.
let's do it. Shades? No shades? Shades?
No, you can be cool. You're outside. You do your
I'm
thing.
outside.
All
Do
right.
ya?
Here are some of the things that I think really stood out in that conversation with Dr. Kennard. She said communication comes from a system. It comes out of a system. I thought, I mean, I've thought about communication, but in the confines or coming out like a system, I thought that was pretty profound. That it comes out of a system, and that system is formed by our history, how we were raised, how we were introduced to communication, how we learn to communication. So I came up with a formula here that communication comes out of your history, that history forms a system, and out of that system comes a pattern of communication. It is your pattern, it is how you communicate. How's that?
Yeah, I think even Dr. Kennard was impressed by that. She said that's the book right there. You got the book. You can take that and write the book just from that quote right there. But one of the things I appreciated so much about Dr. Kennard was she was she was unmistakably Christian, but she also had that strong clinical side. So she was able to, in a sense, summarize all of these different the things that people brought up during the discussion, and that that she even agreed that that is really essentially not just communication, but well, everything we do as individuals comes from that comes from how we were brought up, what that system or that environment or that culture we brought up in, that puts that imprint on us, how we communicate, how we engage one another. Well, basically everything boils down to communication. But that is it. Those seeds, that bedrock is laid from your culture and your when you're just starting to grow up, and that carries you the rest of your life unless something comes against it, to tweak it or to change it.
Or yeah,
Yeah.
or you do the work to change it.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and so if you come from a house that everyone hollers at each other,
Mm-hmm.
and you accept that as a viable means of communication,
Hmm.
you you holler, and maybe not only that's how you communicate, but maybe that's how you hear also. You really don't hear until it's at a
Hollered.
hollered or
And
escalated voice.
Right till he's
she
escalated.
she said that in a sense. She said because of how you communicate, what you do here is how you communicate everywhere.
Yeah.
If you communicate this way in your home, you you may do it differently You may do it not to the same extent in your home when you're outside of your home when you're talking to someone else, but that's how you communicate. You're used to the like you said, for if you were brought up in a culture that talked loud or shouted at you, then you do that to some degree in every form of communication you do. So yeah, that was just that helped. It was like an eye opening moment. Like, wait a minute, how do I communicate
Yeah.
here
Yeah.
and then here and then here? She said whether is it passive aggressive? Is it more dominating conversation or talking loud or like you said the loud talking and not really letting someone else speak. That all that starts there and it
Over.
goes. It's the same form of communication, maybe
And
to
then
a different extent, but it's the same exact form of communication.
and then
Yeah,
the first communication you have is with yourself. That you're the first. You learn how to communicate with yourself, and then with others. What do you tell yourself? How you communicate health, how you communicate your well-being becomes an outgrowth of that communication. Let me just get.
Are you talking about
did she
as
say that?
adults or because when you say that, you think about the communication of babies. They don't necessarily
No, no,
talk
no.
about them. They don't necessarily talk to
To
themselves.
themselves.
They
Right,
communicate based on what's going on around them.
They're not
So I don't
babies.
wouldn't necessarily say. I mean, even as children grow, as they
right,
they communicate like the people in their homes, and
Right.
even as they grow, it takes it's. I think the communication kind actually kind of shifts once you become more social. But the first form of communication is what you hear around you. It
Yeah,
ain't. I don't
absolutely.
think you don't. I don't think you hear your voice. I think it takes a while
But
to hear
there
your
is
voice.
that self talk comes from communication. It is impacted by your history. It is
Yeah,
impacted by your system. So let me
impacted.
say it like this. So you grow in a house and community, and low self esteem or fear is communicated. If you accept that as a viable means of communication, you internalize that and you communicate fear to yourself. You become afraid. You become insecure. You become, because that is the communication that you have accepted or
Yeah.
has penetrated. And then from that, out of that flows communication with others. But you are the kind of the foundation of that
I
communication.
guess I'm hung up on the first place of communication. I don't think self-talk is the first place of
Oh no,
communication.
no, no, no. Disregard that then.
Okay.
But I'm saying that how you communicate with yourself actually is how you
Ulti-
it impacts how you communicate with others, because it
Oh,
comes is
definitely,
yeah,
definitely. It's
yeah,
hard
you're
to
saying ultimately,
yeah.
ultimately
ultimately.
you do.
Yeah,
But I mean, ultimately you begin to self-talk what you hear in that environment you grow in. But I
yeah,
don't think like you said, I kind of agree with Gail saying you don't start off that way. You start
yeah.
off communicating to your parents or your caregivers,
Yes,
and
Or
then
your
you begin to
siblings or people in your
your
people in your
siblings,
and
household.
that's
right?
how you learn the
Yeah,
system,
That's
and
how
that's
you
how
learn
you
the
that's how
learn
you
the
learn the
system.
system.
system. You
Yeah.
don't
Because
even realize you're learning it, but you
everybody that grows up in a system doesn't accept that as a viable means of communication.
Hmm.
So just because you grew up in a house that would raise voices shouting, or a house of even a house of affirmation, you don't necessarily carry that communication on and continue it. You still There is still some elements that will influence what you accept as viable and a way to communicate.
Yeah, yeah. I agree.
Good. All right.
Agreed.
So it is important. Here's another statement. It is important for couples, friends, family, when you're introduced to one another,
Hmm.
to have that communication. And in a relationship, you have to go back over your history so that your friend or a new relationship forming knows how to communicate with you or to you, right?
That was deep.
That ain't deep.
That was a lot. Yeah, that was a lot.
Right. I had to hear that one again.
Well, okay, here,
That's
Ricky.
that was too much. That was
That
good.
ain't too much.
I was letting my
Listen,
head.
listen.
I was letting my head
No, no,
explode.
no, 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 no. Because okay, say you my I said my communication last week. We said my communication from my father. He was highly, highly critical. Now my mom was affirming.
Hmm.
Okay, that's in my history. So I said last week I don't like unconstructive criticism. Because
Okay.
I've dealt with that.
Okay.
So that's my history. I would need in a relationship. I need to share that with you.
Yes.
And then
Yeah.
you said last week that your mom really she was working trying to take care of all the babies. She didn't have time to affirm.
Hmm.
So that missing of affirmation may be important to you based on your history. So
Yeah.
it's important to know the history
Yeah.
If
of
you can, I mean, I think it is. I think she even said she brought that point out as well. But I mean, that's now you're talking about someone who is very self-aware. I mean, who did the work in the process to realize that maybe not even because I think so much of communication is by default. We don't even realize, especially as young people, and then as an adult, I mean, going into adulthood, we begin to realize, wait a minute, I said this, now you should respond. We
Right.
interact with different forms of communication. We don't necessarily judge them as, okay, that's wrong, that's not communicate, that's bad, but we realize that there are different forms out there. But people learn different ways, so it seems like it's okay for people to communicate different ways. I mean, to attach that history to your own style of communication, that takes a deep dive. I believe. I think it's critical though. I do think it'll open up a relationship, especially with a partner, or
yeah.
yeah, well, everybody, siblings,
Yeah.
parents. But you have to realize that. What I'm saying, you have to become aware of that why you communicate the way
Yeah.
you do.
I,
That's
You know.
major because some people don't even realize that when
Yeah.
they talk, they might be demeaning or
condescending.
condescending. Like we
Yep.
were talking about yesterday when after the trial, Donald Trump went to that Cuban restaurant. And
Hmm.
while he was finagling, just kind of hanging around the people and everything, and all of a sudden he shouted out, "Free food for everybody!" And I'm like, "Well, that's kind of rude," because I felt like this is a special audience of Cubans that were curated to meet the former president as well as his supporters. And so for him to feel as though they need free food, I thought that was kind of
Hmm.
condescending. But I mean, that's kind of his mo. But sometimes people, you like you say, you just don't. Some people don't know. They haven't realized their mode of communicating.
Well, yeah, and yeah, they have to do the work, but then you drill it down like this. You say that's a broad statement, but now let's communicate expectations.
Who says that?
So you when you say let's talk about our history, that might be too
Hmm.
broad. So you
Yeah,
say what
Okay.
is your expectations? How do you see a friend? What is a friend to you? What is a relationship to you? What does that mean to you? What do you expect from a relationship? You expect a text every day, a call every day?
right.
Do you expect dinners out to eat once a month, once a week? Do you expect hand holding, public signs of
Hmm.
affection? What are your expectations? So you narrow down that broader statement of bringing up communication history to little sub kind of folders or categories, and you talk about expectation and what says then you get communication of love or what does trust look like to you and things of that nature. And people, if you ask people, and remember what she said, tell people what you expect, and then she got into tell people what you will do. We always default to the negative of
Right.
what
What
I
we
won't
won't
do
do.
or what I'm not.
Right.
I'm not looking for this. I don't want this. I don't want that. Where we need to
Right.
get into the affirmative.
Right.
Agreed.
Right. Yep. She said that was our default. Most people.
Uh,
They sure do.
So that and it's so important to communicate those expectations before you get emotionally involved, because then you can, by not communicating, you are communicating.
Right.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that's right.
So
That's
now
right.
you can get in this relationship where certain expectations haven't been uncovered, and you get into a relationship and you find that people come and say, hey, you got to, if you want to communicate respect to me, that means you got to do A, B, and C. And the other person like, where'd that come from?
Yeah.
And we had to
Yeah.
learn this. We had to learn this growing up because we didn't have no conversation like that.
Mm-mm.
Hmm.
We
Honestly, most people don't, though. I don't think that's, I think most people don't know how to communicate on that level. We talk, just, we grew up talking, so that's how we just continue talking, and then it's only someone I think who is,
Yeah.
well, no, after you come into some sort of conflict, well, not so much even conflict, but just a need to resolve an issue, then those things start to come out. Those things need to be, okay, well, why did you do this the way you did it? Or then you begin to say, well, that's because I always do it. That's what
I do.
that's what I was, born doing. Or
Mm-hmm.
not born doing, but, that's how we do things. That's how I do things. And then you have that, then you can have that conversation, well, expectation. Then you can have that conversation with communication. But knowing it going, I think, the more you know, the better you can do. So I mean, maybe now
Supposed to
we can
be.
begin spreading that, right.
Yeah.
You hope, if you know better, you do better. And
You do better.
sometimes
Mm.
just stand, just floating, just float. Don't stir the water. Just let me float on through.
um,
You good,
go
Carmen.
ahead. Go ahead.
These are important issues.
Oh yeah, they are. Let me
Yeah.
get some comments here. Sister Gwen, communication, history. Yeah, I would say history plus where history um, plus systems equal patterns, or you can, just that they are connected. Thank you, Sister Gwen, for that. Then I can't stand hollering. That's
Yeah.
Sister Gwen.
Yeah. Stressful.
Carmen,
Instant stress.
what it is, Carmen? Hey, y'all. Carmen said, hey, y'all.
Hey, Carmen.
80 Allen in the house.
Addie Allen.
Addie Allen in the house. If you see a pointer out,
Ready?
Addie, Addie. Thank you for tuning in. We're talking about communication. But
Yeah.
there's so much misunderstanding. Communication, I think, is got to be in the top three of things that we need to almost master in order to have good relationships. There is so much misunderstanding.
Yeah.
Even in the church, there's and then it brings offense. It brings it just
Hmm.
it just a myriad of things happen in bad communication. Why don't we work? Let me ask, and even people that are watching, why don't we work on our communication? Or do we
Because
work?
honestly, because most bad communicators don't see themselves as wrong. They don't see nothing wrong with their communication.
Right. No, no, no,
I
I
mean,
can think
it's,
that's, I
it's
think that's,
pride.
I think that's valid.
Yeah,
People, I mean, why don't
yeah.
people go to counseling? They don't think anything's
They
wrong
don't
with
think
it.
so. Thank you. Yeah, most bad
Or,
communicators don't
or
feel
they're,
like they're communicating bad,
But if somebody
and they
tell you
want.
it over and over again, you hear it.
well, again, that could be a problem with them. I'm
Yeah.
saying? Not, okay, let's say someone keeps telling me I'm a bad communicator. If I'm not self-aware, I would think that's your problem, not mine.
Thank you.
I'm just saying as an example.
Yeah.
I'm not. I think
Right.
I'm self-aware,
Right.
but like someone would think, or if there's a blind spot, if someone calls to you a blind spot, especially you're talking about people who have been, you know, this is how they were. This is all they do to communicate. Unless there's a reason for them to change it, they don't. Why would they think something's wrong?
Right. Yeah.
Unless I think that's the same thing with life issues. Um, my brother has a phrase. This might not apply to it, but my brother has a phrase where he'll talk about, because he just relocated to another city for his job, and he's trying to find out where to live, and what this place versus this place, and then he'll say, these are first world problems.
Oh
These are
yeah,
this isn't even,
yeah,
this isn't life or death. This isn't
yeah,
this isn't, bread, putting bread on the table or not. This is just first world problems. And I don't think, meaning that, there's a large percentage of, people in our society who, don't wrestle with the issues of, should I get a condo with a garage, or should I park on the street? I mean, those are issues that,
yeah,
but I think communication is critical, but some people don't have the luxury, maybe, if you
yeah,
can call it a luxury. I think it's essential, but some people don't see it as essential to, um, getting things done, or moving through life.
I, I,
yeah,
Um,
I think we need to, I think that then in this talk today, we need to encourage people that if you've been told that you don't listen by more than a few people, and you found that your communication style has hindered your employability
or relationships.
or
Yeah,
relationships,
or relationships, yeah.
maybe the fruit, if we think of it this way, this wasn't from Dr. Kennard. I said this a couple of weeks ago. Communication is a seed. You will reap what you sow. That is a principle, just like the law of gravity. If you are reaping seeds that have been sown in relationships, because
Hmm.
because the words are seed, their life, their death in the power of the tongue. If everything's dying around you, you got to ask why.
yeah,
If things are
Yeah.
not bearing fruit, you've got to say, well, you know what? If, am I speaking life? And then this is another a way to evaluate communication. Do you speak life or do you speak death? What comes out of your mouth? Negativity, criticism, comparison, fear,
Hmm.
or do you
Yeah.
speak the words of life? Maybe that's a
absolutely.
good way to evaluate. We have to have a way to evaluate our communication.
Yeah, I have a question.
Yeah.
I have a question. When in discussions, are you a better speaker? And I want some of the people on our thread to just jot down a word. Are you a better speaker or a better responder slash listener?
Are you a better speaker or a better responder
Yeah,
slash
and
listener
in two-way
in
conversations.
two-way conversations?
Are
Okay.
you the person that says, I got something to say. I need to get my point. I need to make my point. Or are you the person that listens and says, listens good? Everybody doesn't listen well. Some people listen defensively. Some people listen just to build their case or just
Hmm.
to hear what you're
Hmm.
saying. So are you
Yep.
better at articulating what your point is or listening and processing information?
And while you're doing that, let me get a couple of comments. Most people don't do introspection.
That's true.
Yeah.
Sister Gwen. Carmen says some people don't care to communicate effectively. They have not sharpened their communication skills.
Yep.
That's a good
Hazel
point. Yeah.
says, hey, hey, Hazel. Hey, Addie. Communication problems can stem from deep issues that the communicator finds it painful to address.
Ooh, yep.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
And
I
then
think that's true.
here's Carmen. Oh, I'm a respond. Okay, she's answering your question.
Mm-hmm.
Here's Carmen. I'm a responder,
I'm
but
making my
I'm learning to
comments.
hold what I have to say to after they finish talking. I
Me too,
kind of
Carmen.
believe that
Yeah.
about Carmen.
Whatever. I'm working on that too, Carmen.
You're working on that
I'm
too.
still working on that. Just
I said you're a responder.
no, I'm working on responder. I think yeah, I think I'm better at responding to communicate because sometimes my thoughts get jumbled up in my head. So sometimes I'll say something and somebody will say, "What did you say?" Or I didn't get that, or I may want to put too much information in it, feel like I have to be too technical and stuff like that. So I would say I'm a better responder. But I am working on, not reacting to triggers within a person's their response. Sometimes people sock little landmines and triggers in their response.
Mm,
Ooh,
shade.
Get
landline.
me blaming it on the other person.
Okay. Uh, I,
What were the two again?
I,
What were the two?
Speaker or responder listener.
Okay.
that's a good question. Here's
Yeah.
Gwen
I,
says, listen. Here's Gwen. Listening to respond effectively, I had to teach myself to wait and not to interrupt people.
Yeah.
All right, go ahead, Renee.
no, I was just going to say I'm definitely a speaker, but I'm also, I think, I would consider myself a good responder because when I respond, I try to respond to what I've heard. But I will initiate, or I will a conversation, or I will, I I have strong opinions, or I have strong, ideology, so I will share those and voice them.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I don't. But at the same time, I do. I would like to. I believe that I'm also an effective listener, which I had to. Which I had to. Like what Sister Grin just shared, I had to learn to be a better listener. That I'm not just. I'm not just listening to make a point. I'm listening and talking and addressing what was shared.
Yeah.
Um, so, and I think that's a skill. That's a skill that's learned. I don't think we just don't do that. We have to learn to become better listeners.
I'm learning that too. The
And
older I get, that is learned. Is learned. My nephew was here a couple of weeks ago. He was talking to a couple, and he said he made the point that he told one of the people that he was talking to, don't listen. Oh no, when you speak and make a comment, don't say it for validation. Don't expect for the person, the listener, to validate your point, because it may or may not happen. What you're doing is articulating a thought or a need, and it's your job to just make sure it gets articulated well. You're not responsible for how they respond to it, and they may not validate you, so you can't not feel validated and then get angry.
So that's an
yeah,
unreasonable expectation.
that's true.
Yeah, big time, big time.
That would be an
But
unreasonable
that's one of those
expectation.
things that you have to recognize, number one, that you're doing it, and like Sister Renee said, it's learned. You have to practice it. Yeah, you have
Good.
to practice.
Here's Leslie says responder, but
Leslie Ken.
I mean Ken. I'm sorry, Ken says responder, but learning to wait until a person speaking is completely finished. Good.
Yeah.
Um,
I
I
thought I
think
was the
I'm
only one.
I think I'm let me
Whatever.
get Gwen here. I listen.
I didn't say nothing.
I,
What you do? Get convicted?
that's I'm listening.
Sounds
You
I
saw?
like a
You
listen.
felt
defensive
my
response.
eyes. He felt my eyes and got
I'm
convicted.
Gwen said I'm better at writing
Nope.
out my response.
Oh,
I've written some long Facebook responses. I,
girl.
I, you know what? I speak, and then I respond. I fall off after a conversation goes too long, and I'm trying to wrap it up. I
Yeah.
so
Which is, I mean, that's wisdom.
my speaking go decrease. My responding is going to try to get to the point, and yeah. So I don't know. I think I'm a little bit of a mix, but I think it kind of falls off the edges if it goes too long.
If no resolution is had,
Well, I don't have to have
I need to
resolution.
put my arm
I
somewhere.
just don't want to talk for a long
Yeah.
time. My God.
Well, welcome to my
So,
world.
so let's get this done in 3 steps. 3 steps. Let's get this done. Okay. But I mean, I think understanding is extremely important.
Yeah, and all I
Um,
get understanding.
all you're getting good
That's the
understanding,
word.
and how can
Two.
two walk together except they agree.
Mm-hmm.
Agreement comes through communication. Here's
Yeah.
another one for you. Isaac rebuilds the well of his father, and he goes and looks for a land to rebuild, to revisit the well of his father, which is something I'm really studying in scripture. This is coming down the pipeline. And the people quarrel with him, they argue with him, they debate with him, they fight not physically, but they through communication they contend with him. He can't redig the well. He has to find a place where there is no argument. One of the words
Wow.
used there, that quarrel, is a legal argument, a legal presentation. He has to find a place that there is no argument being stated, no
Mm.
quarrel. So, what does that mean? That means he could not do or accomplish what he needed to accomplish unless he found peace. In arguments, there is no progress, no
Mm-hmm.
momentum,
Right.
no
And just
achievement,
disagreements. Yeah.
no fruit. Disagreement.
Mm.
Where there is disagreement.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
So if you're in a relationship or you want to have a fruitful relationship, you have to find
Wow.
a way to come into agreement.
Yeah. For good productive communication.
Yes.
Communication has to be good and productive.
Has to be good, has to be
Yeah.
productive, has to be intentional, has to be in, the intent is understanding. And I love what Dr. Kanal said. It is not a win or loser, a winner or loser. You
Mm-hmm.
don't dig your heel in the sand and hold your position. I'm going to win. It is a dialogue,
Yeah.
not a debate.
Right.
Not a debate. There are no winners, no losers. It is the goal is understanding. In
Mm-hmm.
understanding, you can build the house. You can establish some things.
Yeah.
So that's why wisdom is a
It's good.
precious thing, and therefore get wisdom. But in all
Good
you're getting, get
Good
understanding.
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 Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Yep.
Um,
Wow.
Yep.
any questions out there about communication, relationship, anything you want to add to anything we said, Renee?
Oh, it was just a great. She was a very good uh, counselor. And what I noticed with Dr. Kennard, she did share, but she really listened. When questions were asked of her, she really listened. She responded to what was said, but she also responded. And when she responded with both, I think, the wisdom from her years as a counselor, but also with the
Over
clinical
25 years.
aspect of it. I'm sorry, you can't
I
hear?
was just saying over 25 years. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Oh, 25 years, right. And then having that experience and having that depth, but also, and then being able to take the clinical side of it. That's what impressed me and apply it in
Yeah.
such a practical way. And it's so, a lot of, a lot of houses of worship or may not necessarily agree with Christian counseling, but what she showed me, or what she displayed just by listening
Mm-hmm.
and then applying practical, um, to me, exercises, which everybody needs exercise to these to communication, to your these soulful issues, how to resolve these issues when they come up. To me, I think
Yeah.
that is a skill that is needed,
Definite.
with among everybody,
Yeah.
and particularly houses or Christian communities where sometimes um, I think the old guard will default to just prayer, or default to reading the word, or defaulting to people who aren't trained and clinically trained to be able to address these issues with wisdom and from an objective stance. And so I think
Or
she did an excellent job of
or our
showing the balance
peers.
of
Our
that.
peers. Sometimes people
Um,
depend on too much. Instead of getting a professional that's trained, we'll discuss things with our peer who are pretty much in the same boat that we're in.
Same boat.
Yeah.
Not to say don't use the word, not to say don't use prayer, but how do you apply these exercises
Right.
into your almost dysfunction to
Well,
see a better result, to
for one thing,
see it get you closer to the idea that we're trying to strive for as believers, and that's getting some of these unmet needs, unhurt these hurts or these tensions that we grew up with thinking they were normal and they're not. And you
Right.
can't pray those away. You can't necessarily um, not treat them or not address them and expect them to get better.
but yeah,
True.
and
So I really.
even a prayer in faith and faith without works is still dead. And I do like what you said about you got to bring you got to work.
That work?
Yeah,
You got to
there's
be
some work
willing
to do.
Yeah.
to dig.
Yeah, yeah.
Case of Isaac, to dig that well, to
Yeah.
redig that well, and communication is worthy of the work. It's worthy of the work. It's worthy
Yeah.
of what you need, doing what you need to do to become a better communicator, and just coming into agreement and having a better relationship, friendships, work experience. It's just a better, much. It's worthy of the exercise
Yeah.
and to do the work. Um, one,
All right.
we got. That's right, a dialogue, but I can hold my own in debate. This is great.
Hmm. Oh,
I'm going to do some communication exercises Sunday morning so we can get a
We
more
should have
practical
did
way to apply it to our lives.
it.
No, I mean, that's something that you can really
Sure.
practice with someone.
Yeah.
Uh, Even in, like, you can pick a subject and communicate with someone and then ask them to echo you. And then you give them and let them know if they understood you or not. I think there's a lot of times, like, when everything is kind of flat, and there's no emotions involved, I think we're pretty decent communicators. I think it's when things are heated that
hmm.
we revert to maybe some bad patterns.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
Or when we have to listen to things that we don't necessarily agree with.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Like, mhm,
then we do it. And then also keep this in mind. Um, how, most communication is nonverbal.
mhm,
And what do you communicate? Going back to communication with yourself, what are you communicating? Look at what you're communicating about yourself. The Bible says, love your neighbor as you love yourself. What are you communicating to your health? What are you communicating to your household? What are you communicating to your finances? What are you communicating to your emotional well being, your mental well being? What are you communicating? Because if you're going to master communication at home, in your heart. Um, what affirmation do you give yourself? What confessions do you give yourself? Some people are down on themselves, they're down on others.
mhm,
Um, Develop while we're working on that relationship communication. Let's also work on what we say ourselves. Another Bible example. I see the giants over there, Moses, and we look like grasshoppers to them, and we can't do it. And that was a communication that they told themselves,
Yeah.
and it totally just destroyed their whole effort. So just be careful what we tell ourselves. Yeah,
I'm good.
you're good. Renee is good.
I'm good.
All right. Thank everyone for viewing.
Thank you
We're
all
gonna
for
be back
joining
next Wednesday at 7, same time
at
at
7
7 for another. What do we call this?
installments.
Installment, not episode.
Episode,
It's not episode.
episode make is
Make it
good.
look sound like TV.
Right.
So that's
Another
another installment
installment.
of John and Gale.
Mhm.
How y'all like my hair?
How y'all like Gail's hair? How y'all like my hair? Look, hold your hair over here. Hold your head. Hold your head over here next to my
I gotta
head.
get my
We
flashlight.
No,
can
hold your
we can
head
see.
over here.
Oh dear.
How y'all like
Wait,
your
I
head? Look.
Nope,
Look
stop.
right here in the
I already
camera.
did it. I already
can't.
Her
did it.
hair.
All right, y'all. Have a good
Her
one.
hair is sexy. I like that.
And on that note,
I like that.
Right on that note.
Natural twist.
stop. See,
I'm
you always take
communicating.
you always
I'm
take stuff too. He
communicating.
always takes stuff too far. He always takes stuff too far.
Oh,
He told me don't say it.
Miss Allen said
Thank you, Addie.
this was
Thank you,
good
Gwen.
stuff. This is good stuff.
Lucretia.
Love your
Thank
hair.
you.
Gwen, love it. Great color for you, Gwen said. I love your hair, Lucretia. All right, guys.
My summer look.
Thank
All right,
you.
you all.
Thank you
Thank you
again,
for
Sister
tuning
Renee, for
in.
tuning in.
My friend Tabitha from Kentucky. Appreciate you. Thank you, Renee.
Oh, Preacher Tabitha.
Did you miss her? All right, you all. Have a good one.
What's that?
John's not going to let y'all go.
Hello, so we're from Facebook headquarters and asking for approval before you give relationship advice. Benji, who's that?
I don't know. He's from Facebook.
Facebook headquarters. We've been married 39 years. If we can't give relationship advice, I'm sorry. You two are funny. Okay, Lucretia. John, you have a nice scalp. Thank you. Just have a nice scalp. This is Lucretia.
That is funny.
All right, guys. Have a good evening.
Have a good one. Love
Join
you
us
all.
Sunday. We're gonna have the men talking Sunday. Bring your sons. Bring
right,
dads. We're gonna have the men talking Sunday, guys.
All right. Have a good one.
God bless.
God bless.